Time now for an in-depth look at the market news on this Friday, and for that I'm joined on the line by Dr. Kim Sei-wan, Professor of Economics at Ewha Womans University. Dr. Kim, thank you as always for coming on.
Good afternoon, Devin.
So today the Bank of Korea decided to keep interest rates where they are. Many say, though, that there will be another rate cut eventually. What do you see in today's decision?
Yes, today's Bank of Korea's decision, which is not changing interest rate, is pretty much expected in the market. And central bank has cut interest rate in October by 25 basis points, and it was a preemptive and not much expected decision in October. After that, Korean economic situation hasn't been much changed at all. So quite a few market participants expected that Bank of Korea is not changing interest rate for this time. On today's central bank's decision, it should be pointed out that there were a minority opinion of interest rate cut. I think that's going to be a big hint for next year's possible interest rate cut.
Got it. Well, also the BOK is the latest organization to cut Korea's economic growth forecast. It's calling for 2% growth this year and 2.3% for next year. There are other estimates out there, though, that Korea won't even reach those levels. What do you think about that?
Well, basically, Bank of Korea is pretty conservative institution, and they updated its forecast on this year's economic growth down to 2% from previous 2.2%. But in today's Korean economic situation, domestic consumption, domestic investment, and exports are all weaker than expected. So I believe that it will be extremely difficult to have 2% economic growth for this year. And Bank of Korea also decreased forecast of next year's economic growth from 2.5% to 2.3%. So that really depends on next year's global economic recovery and cheap export recovery.
So those targets might be out of reach then. Well, this week, Korea hosted multiple summits with countries in Southeast Asia. We had many leaders here in town. What do you think came out of these summits economically? And what should be the focus going forward on growth?
Korea is one of the most heavily foreign-dependent countries in the world. And the trade is too much actually focused on China and United States. So I believe that expanding economic relations with ASEAN member countries is an important and appropriate economic development strategy. As of now, actually, Vietnam is the third largest trading partner of Korea, and ASEAN as a whole is the second largest trading partner to Korea. So President Moon's meeting with leaders of ASEAN member countries will be an effective accelerator on mutual economic prosperity in the future. But I have to say that we have to expand more economic relations with particularly Indonesia, which has 270 population.
Indeed. Well, speaking of prosperity, the American economy seems to be doing okay. U.S. stocks are at all-time highs. What's the story in the U.S.?
According to the Beige Book of U.S. Fed released yesterday, U.S. economy is growing at a moderate pace, which is something improved evaluation compared to that of the October's evaluation on U.S. economy. And naturally, U.S. stock market is booming over Santa Rally due to positive news on the economy and the possibility of phase one U.S.-China trade deal. For example, the U.S. S&P 500 index gained over 25%, and Dow Jones Industrial also gained over 20% from the beginning of the year. I think this momentum will be continued until the early next year.
Right. Well, speaking of that trade deal, what is President Trump's signing of this bill on Hong Kong? How will that affect the trade talks?
The bill supporting Hong Kong's pro-democracy protesters has passed almost unanimously, both of the House and the Senate, with bipartisan support. And the Beijing strongly blamed Washington on this matter. It is true that the bill made U.S.-China trade negotiation more complicated, but I don't think the bill for supporting Hong Kong people dismantle the U.S.-China trade talk, because completing the Phase 1 deal is very, very important on both sides.
Got it. All right, Professor Kim, thanks so much for sharing your insights today. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.